where we're unraveling life's big questions today.
Today we're asking a doozy. It's going to be great. What if life doesn't actually have a grand built-in purpose? Of course, it's the tongue-in-cheek type question. We're playing the devil's advocate here. What if it's not supposed to have meaning?
Yeah, this episode's called Is There a Point to It All, or Are We Just Filling Time? Where we're exploring the idea that meaning might not be something we find, but something we create, moment by moment, even in the middle of the mess.
We could actually subtitle this The Meaninglessness of Meaning. I believe this, or the meaning of meaningless. What do we call this? The meaning of
meaninglessness.
I can't get it to roll off my tongue. It is. Is meaning something we find or something we fake to survive? Either way, today, maybe life is good for letting go of the cosmic chase and learning to live well without all the answers. So, join us. Let's have some fun together. Here we are, segment 1, the myth of the big M, the meaning of life. And I know what it's like to be a young person and be bombarded with the question, what do you want to do with your life? I think that's the most stupid question to ask any 18-year-old. You don't know who you are because you haven't discovered who you're not, to be able to answer the question, what is it that you want to do with your life? Now, granted, I wish when I was 20 years old, I had the wisdom I have now at 43. I'd answer that question. Yeah. So the search for universal meaning, it's going to be more about, sometimes, is it more about comfort or more about truth? Because we're trying to take the environment around us and create meaning to what appears to be chaos. So many people are raised to believe there's a higher purpose baked into life. We can talk about that. What are your comments on this higher purpose baked into life statement we have written down?
I frequently go back in our episodes. I go back to our childhood because growing up, we were always told that the higher purpose was that God put us here for a certain reason, but I always struggled to find what that really was for me. I didn't know what that looked like. And given that I wasn't given a lot of options in our small world at the time, I think I strayed from even looking, what is my purpose, to just surviving? How do I survive? Because that was sort of where my mind was at that time. And since getting married and having a kid, I've taken on the mindset that now my purpose is to keep my kid alive. and so that's my high purpose right now, is to make sure she's taken care of, she's provided for, that she is I give her what she needs to be able to embrace life when she goes off to college, and she can function, as Jeremy says, in society, that she is a self-sustaining individual. So I think now that's I feel what my purpose is, but then it leads me to that's about Chloe. That's not really about me. Yeah. And so what's meaningful to me now? I mean, I do find meaning in helping her, don't get me wrong, but I think I'm still searching personally for what my purpose is, as outside of being a wife, outside of being a mom. And that's sort of for me where this podcast has evolved from, because I wanted something that was mine. It didn't represent me as a mom. It didn't represent me as a wife. And I can try to find those answers to those questions in the process of doing these recordings. So I come into this not having the answers. I'm very, very lost at times, but I'm hoping through this process of talking and hashing these things out that I can grow from that.
Well, my disillusionment with life as an adult really stems from the faulty expectations that I was going to have what I call the Moses burning bush experience.
Yeah.
Moses finds out exactly what he's supposed to do, and here are specific instructions. And I was really dismayed, probably in my early 20s, when I was talking to a professor. I was a music major at that time, and he said something quite profound. He said, your problem is that you're expecting life to give you a rule book. He said, at that time, he was in his early 40s. He was my age that I am now. And he said, Brandon, I'm in my early 40s, and I still don't know what I'm doing with my life. And that was profound to me, because here he was. He had a PhD in music. He was well known throughout the Southeast already for his work with choral activities. And he says, I have the foggiest idea what I'm supposed to do with my life. And that was disheartening to me rather than encouraging, because I am a great college student. I love the syllabus. The syllabus lists out exactly, and it gives meaning for what I'm doing. Here's your objective. Here's what you need to do to meet that objective. And so I have these standards by which I can measure, am I fulfilling the purpose? And that lack of codification of rules in the adult life has really disillusioned me early on. And so that begs the question of what happens after spiritual deconstruction or existential disillusionment. And so many people can throw away everything they've believed because they don't have the answers, particularly when there's a dichotomy. Oh, that's not even the right word. Discrepancy is probably a better word between what you think life should be and what it ends up being. Particularly if you have a faith-based environment that says if you do this, then life supposedly should work out. And that's not how it is. And it never really has been. We just like to have life in the box. It's black or white. We don't like the gray. Right. And so this ambiguity is hard for people like me to live with. Henry Miller's quote says this: life has to be given a meaning because of the obvious fact that it has no meaning. Right there on the surface, the craziness of it all. What am I actually doing? I think the fear behind this isn't just spiritual. It's deeply personal. If life has no built-in meaning, does my life matter?
But I do like, if you look at what Henry Miller was saying, life has to be given a meaning. So I like to, and I may be wrong in this, but I like to assume that I can make that what I want it to be. I can give it the meaning, and then I don't have to feel like I'm failing or missing some big calling.
Okay. I like that. There is definitely an existential argument to that. Give me just a minute. My printer has decided to come alive and is making all these noises over here. And so
I thought maybe I was just getting some weird feedback.
No, it did a software update. I was like, what is that noise? And so I thought I unplugged it, but I unplugged something else back here, so I don't know what I unplugged. So yeah, that's a nice little segue in the middle of our session here.
It makes me think of that episode on Friends when Chandler's printer starts printing. It's printing!
Oh man. It was summer! It was hot! Oh look,
the lonely gray crouch.
Oh yes, that's right.
Rachel was there.
Oh look, cried Ned. Well, that's the worst story ever. See, there's how we found meaning, right there. That's it. That's our meaning. Yeah. Okay, the answer to life's existential question: watch Friends.
Maybe we should have put a disclaimer: watch Friends before you watch our podcast, then you will understand that.
Oh, that between that and the Andy Griffith Show, our spouses had to be inundated in these shows in order to speak our lingo. Bless them. Right. Bless them. So, when did you start first questioning the idea of a higher purpose? Now, I want to rephrase that question because I don't want to sound like I'm attacking faith-based environments, because I'm not. And neither am I throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but I like being vulnerable. I like being open and saying, hey, I'm not just going to swallow hook, line, and sinker everything that's just shot down our throats in Sunday school. But there comes a point where you're asking some legitimate questions about, okay, So let's ask about this. Where in your life did you say, I'm questioning this script that my society has says that there is a higher purpose, and now I'm lost. I've spent all this energy searching for that higher purpose, and I missed actually living my life because I was trying to find a higher purpose.
I honestly can't recall when it all started for me. I feel like in some aspects it's been under the surface this whole time. And I think a lot of times, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we all stay so busy so we don't have to address that.
Oh, absolutely. People have kids. I think people have kids to avoid having to address that existential angst. Because you just mentioned it. You just said that if there's a Freudian slip, right now I'm living for my daughter. Nothing wrong with that. And I've heard people say that time and time again, kids have brought so much meaning into my life. I get it. But that's a horrible reason to bring kids into the world, because you don't have any meaning in your life, and you're going to bring them into this crazy existence so you can feel happy. My wife says it all the time. That's why we don't have children. She says, that's a very selfish motivation. So, this desire to have meaning, like I'm trying to put a picture together, like a puzzle. Yeah. A picture, life to me is like a puzzle. You're trying to put it together, but you don't have the box cover. Right. And so we're definitely trying to use the inductive skills. What is the big picture here, and how does it all fit together? Because if I don't, the aimlessness, the chaos is going to drive me crazy. And so you can substitute meaning, like you said, with being busy. We're mistaking output for value, constant movement for meaningful direction. I mean, maybe we equate productivity with this personal value because society has conditioned us to believe that our worth is earned.
Right.
Rather than it being inherent. But that begs the question, how do you have inherent value in a matrix if the question of the divine is negated? And so this is the question of the ages that we're not going to have answers for.
Right.
But my point that I'm making is, in the search for meaning, at some point, someone does have to wrestle with this ageless question, and that is the definition of the divine, the existence of the divine, the first cause of the first mover, however you want to call that. At some point, you have to answer that question, and your actions every day are answering that question, regardless if you want to do. And so I caution people, if they, what the psalmist says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. So when we search for meaning, and you come to the conclusion, I'm just going to write that off, that's a lot of arrogancy on that person's part. So I caution against such drawing a line in the sand. I have my belief system. I don't want to come across like I don't have any belief system. I just don't impose that on other people. I'd rather be the type of person that asks the tough questions and causes people to think. So if we have a culture that's obsessed with this output and this hustling and bustle and being busy, I'm busy. The doing, the checklist becomes more important than the being. And in the doing, that becomes the definition of our existence. And there's a wonderful book out there by Eckhart Tolle, and it's called The Power of Now. And I recommend everyone read it. Granted, it has a lot of New Age mentality seeping in it. So if you come from a more fundamental evangelical background like we do, some of those things might be a little harder pill to swallow. But the essence, there's some good stuff there, real good stuff there, that the search for meaning is thwarted because we are defining our existence by the amount of thoughts and energy, the energy we're investing in our thoughts. Either we're obsessed with the future, worry and anxiety over things that we can't control, haven't even happened yet. Anxiety is not something that's outside of ourselves. Anxiety is simply in the thought processes of something that has not happened. And then regret, spending all that time in the past over things you can't change, guilt, things you can't change. And very little is spent in what he called the now. The now is all you have. The future doesn't exist. The past is already gone. And even the past itself can be a murky topic because your memories could be clouded. You may not remember the past as it been. You've recreated those memories due to the elasticity of the brain and the way it deals with memory. So the quest for meaning, in his mind, is first of all, you've got to be able to anchor yourself into the now and be present. And he argues for finding the silence between the thoughts. How much clutter is here, and we can't stop to really listen to what matters. And I forget who shared, we're getting into a subtopic here of the meaning of existence. I wish I remember where I heard this from, but this was dealing with the search for meaning. And this was coming from the perspective of there being a divine being, and we as created entities are searching after that divine being. It likened the mind, the soul, the personal entity of being like a runway or the tarmac out there on which the plane needs to land.
Okay.
But there's so much crap on the tarmac. There's so much obstacle, so much litter that the plane can't land. The plane being that connection with what we would call meaning, what we would call the divine.
Yeah.
And it really ties in what Mr. Eckhart was arguing, that our brains are so overwhelmed with pain that's needlessly caused. Pain caused because of anxiety over things that haven't happened. They're not even in reality. That's in your mind. Pain caused over regret over things that you can't change. And the call is, can you discipline your thoughts? Because if you're, this is, we're really getting off topic here. And it's my fault. But being a temporary, if we are a permanent spiritual entity, having a temporary human experience, right? Then what we are is not flesh and blood. That's just what we're inhabiting. And so if you're dealing with this issue of being so busy that we were surrounded by noise, that we can't stop to figure out what the real now is. The real now is being awakened as a spiritual entity that it allows the now to happen without resistance. And whether it's a fun experience, whether it's a negative experience, because I think we're going to very quickly. I see I get us off script here. I'm getting into the next episode.
Yeah. Well, I'm already got a whole other train of thought going on even how this would be correlating back to what we grew up as revival. I remember so much preachers saying that we needed to pray for revival, for that awakening, for that. And so when you were talking about that, I was like, oh my goodness, I could just see this going in a whole nother direction in a different episode in regard to.
Well, there's elements, I think, I still hold on to some of that because there's elements of truth there.
Yeah.
I in searching for meaning, what I've done in my life, on this topic of busyness, here we are at the recording of this session. This is September 2025. I know that for 3 months, I just cut off social media. I quit my job. I just backed off and just, because I had alarms going off in my system early this year that, man, you're stretched too thin. Literally, there's a quote in Lord of the Rings where he says, I feel like butter that's spread too thin over a piece of toast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was going on. Fortunately, I had the capacity and opportunity to just back off. So, and this whole search for meaning cannot be substituted with a list of things to do. We let what we're doing define what we are. And if we haven't paused to think about this existential idea that here we have the previous episode, we talked about death. And this is a wonderful topic to segue from. We're dying. That's the truth. Fixate on that. You're dying every minute. It's a wonderful thought. If you had joy coming into this episode, we're going to take care of that for you right here.
Yes.
So you are going to die. And it's amazing how many people don't want to stop and think about that. I need substance addiction, or I need entertainment. I need drama from relationships. I need to distract me from the fact that I'm going to die, rather than that being a central focus of the thought, not for a depression, but that is the one certainty that you have. You're gonna croak one day, and either it's today or 50 years from now, you're over.
Yeah.
And so when you're searching for meaning, there is the option of saying there is nothing after that. There is no beyond that, and so you become a very materialistic. That's the only option. Doesn't mean you're bad. You're doing bad things, but you try to find. I don't understand how to wrap my head around the total atheist approach. I just can't wrap my head around that. Granted, a psychologist, an anthropologist would say, Brandon, it's your upbringing, it's your steeped in an indoctrination. I get it. But I've looked at this from all angles. I've backed away from my own belief system. I mean, particularly, and I challenge, here again, you cannot deal with this idea of meaninglessness and meaningfulness, whatever we're titling this, without dealing with the issue of death and the amount of, I encourage anyone I talk to, go dive into near-death studies. I'm not talking about, somebody that's in bamboo skirt and smoking weed and talking about stuff. I'm talking about real scientists out there. They're collecting quantitative and qualitative data and putting those factors together in journals, and there's whole institutes that are researching this stuff. They're coming back and saying there is something there. And why this stuff is not on the news is beyond me, because we don't have all the answers. Because just that topic right there lists a whole litany of what ifs and what abouts and hows and whys. And so if we're not dealing with that, if productivity has become kind of like a secular religion, with the to-do list as rituals and this burnout, as a silent badge of honor, then we definitely are missing the point. So I think the call there is, first of all, you have got to learn, and let me quote something from a religious passage. We got to be still, as the psalmist says, be still. And if they can't get the clutter out of the life, they're not going to be able to answer these deep questions. And I know what it's like for rest to be something that I feel guilty about, and not something that I value. I feel lazy. I feel I'm not doing something.
Right.
Driven by those internal dialogues, we talked about in other episodes of I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to be worth something. And this hustle culture that's infiltrated everything from the stay-at-home moms, the entrepreneurs, the high achievers, is everywhere. Here's a quote by Henry David Thoreau: "It's not enough to be busy. The answer busy," he says. The question is, what are we busy about?
Well, as a stay-at-home mom, I find that this hits hard for me. I'm constantly doing cleaning, organizing, checking things off. You know me, I love a good checklist. Check.
Hey, look, your husband told me over the weekend. He said, "Man, she can get stuff done, but I would never work for her. I would never have her as my boss because she can work circles around me." Yeah, I get you. So yeah, you are a doer for sure.
Well, he hates that I have health issues, but sometimes he's like, I'd sort of hate to see what you would be like without the health issues. He's like, I wouldn't.
That's what my wife said about you one day. She said, "Can you imagine what Bridgett would do if she didn't have all these health issues?" Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's God's way of keeping you normal. Welcome to being normal, where you can't get
Jeremy,
16.
He says the same thing. He's like, "Welcome to my normal." But even that, I think he says I run laps around him. But anyway, I do often stop and wonder, does any of what I do actually matter, like in the long run? I mean, yes, I cook or clean, whatever. We have to eat. We want to live in a clean space. And I, for one, I do enjoy having a clean space, but it's really been hitting home with me since we started doing these recordings, because I feel like I found something I really am passionate about.
Yeah.
but yet I've got all these other responsibilities that I'm neglecting because I'm spending so much time working on what I'm calling a hobby. And so there's a sense of guilt there, but I feel like in some aspects I'm finding something that is bringing meaning to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's where I've been struggling about. So back to what you were that quote you mentioned from Henry David. What was his name?
Thorough.
Thorough. Yeah. What are we busy about? And I find myself asking that. What am I busy about? And I do see that I'm dedicating a lot of my time to this podcast, but I love that. I love what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
I like the idea of creating a space where we don't have answers, we don't pretend to have answers, but we're comfortable with saying things other people aren't comfortable with saying. We're kind of letting aside the pretense of, man, we got this all together. Now, I would have a disclaimer here about the whole topic of meaningfulness. Is there a point to all of this?
Mm-hmm.
If you are in, let me say this first. A lot of these struggles are coming from the perspective of first world problems.
Sure.
These deep questions may or may not be on the forefront of a 12-year-old boy in Gaza right now who's lost his parents and doesn't know where food is.
Well, I don't even think you have to go as far as Gaza. I mean, you got that even here in the U.S.
Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah, absolutely. I not too long ago was talking with someone who runs a food bank, and I didn't even realize this was a local problem. The amount of 200,000 people in the driving radius of where I'm at that don't even know where the next meal is coming from.
Mm.
So this is back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where if the basic necessities of life aren't being addressed, they're probably not in a place to even think about this, what Maslow called the self-actualization of the higher self. So I think we need to put this in perspective that sometimes our lack of happiness may actually stem from the fact that we're so spoiled we don't realize it.
Mm. Oh yeah.
I mean, I can get bogged down with my own health issues, but the fact that I have the best health insurance out there,
Yeah.
I have a whole box of medicine over there that is months supplies worth of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about food. I don't have to worry about transportation. I don't have to worry about, and yet the list goes on. And
Right.
so someone in an unfortunate circumstance with no potential, life is really, really hopeless, they would look at my life, here I am at home in the middle of the day, and they would easily say, why are you struggling with any meaning? Look at what you have.
Right.
And I think at every stage of where you're at, our focus can be so much on what we don't have and what we can't be that angst kicks in and we haven't learned. And this is another there's an argument of faith and spirituality that the meaning of existence in the physical realm is to learn how to connect with the higher self, for lack of better words, so that whatever's going on, I know how to be at peace. That's the whole point. And some people would argue, they would say, well, why is that? Well, if you're a permanent soul, this is the place to come to experience negativity. Why would I experience negativity? Basically, to strengthen your spiritual muscles. Because if you want to really have an appreciation for purity and peace and love and joy, put yourself voluntarily in a matrix that is so inundated with evil that you are challenged to the utmost to awaken as that entity and lock into those, we can go back to the fruits of the Spirit, as we learn from our background: love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, and those things are non-contingent on the environment. But that requires being still. That requires so much fortitude, and I haven't gotten there. Those are just questions I've been asking myself. For instance, and that begs the question: why do we equate productivity with our value as people? How do you know when you're doing something from intention versus anxiety? Another. There's no answers to this. These are just reflection questions.
Yeah, right.
When has the hustle culture shaped your identity without you realizing it? And what are the tasks you do just to feel worthy? Can you remember a time when rest made you feel guilty? Oh my goodness! Remember a time when rest made you feel guilty instead of rested? And why do you think that is? And everyone's got their answers. I mean, I know what it's like to, grow. We always go back to our childhood, because who you are was not developed in a bubble. There were social, economic environments that impact every one of us. And mine was, daddy's coming home, look busy. You can't look like you're sitting around having fun, because that means that you're not contributing to the family environment, and you're just a free loafer. So that was the values. I get it, but that, I'm not sure that's a value you want to teach a 6-year-old. So.
No, but it has definitely hung with me. Because with me being a stay-at-home mom, and this is something that's really difficult. And you've seen the way I keep house. So Jeremy and Chloe, they'll come in from their day, work and school. So what'd you do today? I'm like, I cleaned. And I'm like really proud of what I've done. They're like, where? Like it looks the same as what they left, because they can't see a difference.
They can't see the
difference.
But
I'm like, here I have spent all this effort and time to clean and get it all, like, I can tell a difference, but to them, they don't see it. And so then I start feeling like, okay, where's my worth here? Where's my value? Because I've just spent my whole day doing all this and no one even notices. And so, and that's a me problem. It's not a negative reflection on them. It's me looking for external validation of, hey, a job well done, but who can tell you when they don't notice that it's even been done?
You can apply that into the work environment.
Oh, sure.
I know it's been there in the office where I work really hard and people just don't appreciate what you do because they can't tell the difference between, this is, people can be so dumb. They don't know the difference between C work, B work, and A work because it all looks good to them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's like to be lazy. I know what it's like to be an overachiever. Yeah. And I have learned that my B- work still outperforms most people's what they think is A work. Mm-hmm. And I want to scream at people and say, no, you have no idea what A work looks like. If I showed you A work, you wouldn't. And then when I have done it, I know what it's like for them to go and not care about it because to them it's not worth it. Why am I putting in all that work? And so I could see how that that angst, existential angst is eating at you. I worked really hard today. What was the point of doing that if I didn't get any value out of this because I'm not getting any positive feedback from the immediate party that's involved?
Yeah.
And so then you apply that to the over picture. What am I doing day in and day out? The mundaneness of life is perhaps the biggest factor here that eats at me about the meaning. I look at my life and I'm like, I gotta find something where I'm making some impact. Just this morning I was looking at an organization. They fight human trafficking because they've compiled a group of extremely smart people that are running a lot of AI networking data crap, and they're tracking the money. Where's the money going? Let's cut them off at the knees real fast. I'm like, wow, you guys are doing in 1 week the amount of value that maybe I've contributed in 10 years. And so I start looking at that. I'm like, whoa. And so that might be another issue about, well, we can get into segment 2 here. Let's just move on here. Meaning as a creative act. Meaning may not be discovered. It may be something that we make. And by make,
Right.
I mean, it is not, it could be things through making and selling, but this creativity may need to turn to a more altruistic type mentality. What is my life doing that is bettering other people? And time again, even with someone that's extremely atheistic, all the way to the other spectrum, the common thread is that those that are happy, they seem to be very others centric, others focused. How can I pour value into you? That's really hard for me to grasp because I'm a professional misanthrope. I know how to completely dislike everything and almost everyone. I make it a habit. My wife knows she's going to plan something. I'm not going to like it. I'm going to get there. I'm not going to like it. And she just knows that. I'm going to find something wrong with this. And so it's just my natural tendency. And so when I think about when people say you got to be grateful and you got to pour into other people, my first reaction is people got cooties. I don't like people. I don't want to be around people. Why do you think I'm here in the middle of the day? Why do you think I like working remote? I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you because I'm such an introvert.
Yeah.
That my meaning is not found in the masses. It's not found in being significant in the eyes. I like creating spaces for like you and my wife, maybe one or two other people, and that's it. Joseph Campbell said, life has no meaning. Each of us has meaning, and we bring it to life. This is great. It is a waste to be asking the question when you are the answer. And this is really overlapping what the book Eckhart Tolle was talking about in the now. Nietzsche paraphrase here: you must give birth to your own meaning. Now, granted, if you come from a evangelical conservative background like we did, there's going to be some fault with that mentality. There's going to say there is no meaning in the self is derived from God. I get it. I can see both perspectives, and I'm not trying to deny or push one view on someone. But I do think this view refrains purpose not as something that's out there, but something that we construct day by day, choice by choice. The creativity, the relationships, the values become the tools we use to sculpt personal significance. Your thoughts?
It's really hard for me because this is all hitting so close to home for me, and in the sense that I'm still asking myself all these questions, and I'm still trying to, if I take aside being a wife, being a mother, what is the meaning of my life? Yes, I have to serve those roles and those purposes, but and maybe that is it. But
yeah, maybe that is found in showing up.
Yes, but I feel in some aspects, for me personally, there's still elements that are missing. And this podcast, for me personally, has been filling, I think, what I felt like was missing. I was telling Jeremy before you and I even started this podcast, I wanted something that was mine, that was my own, that reflected me. And this outlet, I think, is achieving that for me and providing me with some meaning, some purpose, and joy even.
Yeah.
But it's also given me the opportunity to ask myself hard questions and learn because I really love a lot of the things that you have to say and things that I can resonate with, because a lot of times I struggle to find the words to express what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, and then it's like, yes, that's it, that is it, that's what I was thinking, that's what I was feeling, I just didn't know how to say it.
There's a paradigm of thought in the educational and human development circles that talks about fixed versus growth mindset. Fixed mindset says, I'm not going to try anything new because I might fail at it, and then it's going to prove to me that I'm insignificant and I have no meaning. The growth mindset says, hey, I'm going to try something new. I'm not going to be good at it first, but I got to try it multiple times to grow. And what that has to do with the topic that we're talking about is meaning can be challenging for those that have a strong external locus, not the bug,
Yep.
but locus
Yep.
of identity, meaning that their validation is of existence is constantly derived from the external. And if the external is not right, in alignment with what they expect, then it's telling me that I don't have meaning.
Yeah.
So that's more of a locked into a fixed mindset. The growth let's borrow from the growth mindset and says that, maybe rather than my constantly focusing on my scarcity, the things that I know that I am imperfect on, maybe I just open myself up to the experience as is and stop being so judgmental of myself. I'm very judgmental of other people. I mean, I can promise you, if you're listening to this and I don't know you, before you open your mouth, I've already deemed that I'm smarter than you. I outrank you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested in what you have to say. And if you think I'm interested, I'm just acting like it because I know of the social decorum calls for me to do that. I'd rather you not. I mean, matter of fact, don't shake my hand. Just bow to me in the honor that Southeastern Asian people do. I loved COVID because I thought we should all usher in, bow to me. I'm not going to bow to you. You're going to bow. I'm a very narcissist. I'm one of the oddest people you'll meet. I pride myself in finding ways to be narcissistic because most people are not aware of themselves when they're narcissistic. I am. I know what it's like to just be the most condescending prick, and I find joy in that. I'm a kind of twisted up individual. Most people don't get to see that side of me. But I'm aware of it. And I know how to reel it in when I need to. And I find joy in saying things that no one has the balls to say. I'll just come out and say it. And it makes me different. It also makes me why I should be inside and not interacting with. My wife says, I'm not letting you out. You can't go without me because she's not there to thump me saying, shh, be quiet. She's not here to thump me now to say, be quiet. Oh, boy. So we're talking about meaning. Well, that was a rabbit trail. ADHD squirrel. We're talking about meaning. Are you able to be your authentic self regardless if society says that fits in with who we are?
Yeah. Well,
this is why.
I'm sorry.
This is why I don't fit in well with job interviews. What few I have done in my life. Why do you want this job? Well, you're the only one that called. So, I can't. I don't like playing games. I don't like politics. I don't like show and tell. Matter of fact, I know you know about this. I wrote a book called The Joy of Insignificance. And the whole argument of that book right there is, are you being your authentic self or are you just trying to comply so you can fit in so you don't feel threatened, so you feel safe?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I don't live outside. I don't just think outside the box. I live outside the box. I will define myself. You will not define me. I know what it's like to live so long in fearing what other people are thinking about me. Here's the thing. If you're trying to search for meaning in other people, they're not thinking about you. You're already so highly insignificant. No one's thinking about you. So just be yourself. Be you. All right.
I have to tell Chloe that all the time because, and I get it. Even as adults, we still have that self-conscious thought of, oh, what is someone going to think? But I told her, I was like, I guarantee you, not any of those kids are so self-involved and thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about, oh, Chloe did this or Chloe said that.
They didn't notice it. They don't notice it. And if you know that, you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
So I have to worry.
I think it's sinking in with her. It's just I have to keep reiterating it.
Well, I have to worry and anxiety about. So we're worrying about things that we don't have a control over, and they're not even real. Oh, they're not thinking. Trust me, they're not thinking about it. People are so self-absorbed these days.
Yeah,
they're not thinking about you.
Right.
And so, if you are hindering your life's expression of creativity, if we're talking about in this segment of finding being true to yourself to express your creativity, if you're hindering that because you're afraid of what other people are thinking, they're not thinking.
Right.
All right, we're moving on. Where are we at here? Oh, we talk about Joseph Campbell. Life has no meaning. Yes. Let's talk about the Nietzsche. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how.
Yeah.
That's great. So there's a question for anybody listening, what might giving birth to your own meaning look like in your actual life? Don't have an answer for you, but it's a question to ponder.
It's going to vary for everyone.
Yeah.
It's never a one size fits all, which I think makes one aspect that makes life so hard, because you can look at other people's lives, whether in person or social media, and it looks that they have it all together, or they're having fun, or they're enjoying life. And that's one thing that actually I ended up in a therapist office not too long ago, because I could not for the life of me figure out why I did not like what majority of society likes, what all of my friends like. I don't find joy in those same things.
Yeah.
And she was asking me, well, what do you find joy in? And I could barely come up with a handful of items. And that leaves me feeling, okay, what's wrong with me? Because everyone else seems to be enjoying life. They go off, do this or that. And I have tried those things, and I come back to the question of what's the point of it? And I think I sent you that clip of Jerry Seinfeld. He was doing an interview, and he was talking about how he hated everything, really.
Oh, yes. I love that episode. Oh, that guy is awesome. I'm perfectly content going through life, hating everyone. It was fantastic.
Well, there was a section where he was talking about going like jet ski, and he's like, woohoo! And he's like, what's the point of this? You're going nowhere. You're just going out there doing circles.
Oh,
and
man.
I get that, because I look at things that my friends are doing, and I'm like, I don't get it. What's the point of it? You're just going out there doing that or doing this, and then it's over. And then I come back to the point of the segment, or the title of this podcast, Life. What is it good for?
Well, there's a lot of... I'm a very cynical individual. And it would be interesting if someone's out there and you're well-versed in psychology and human development, and you want a case study of siblings that have been raised in a very closed environment, you need to call us, because it's amazing. There's very little in life that I enjoy. People think, oh, you must love music because of all the music. I mean, it's okay, but it doesn't make me happy. I mean, the only thing that comes close to making me...
I'm sorry.
The only thing that comes close to making me happy is food. And that's only in that moment. Food.
Well, Chloe, she's asked me several times, like, we'll be planning to do something or go somewhere. She's like, aren't you excited about this? And I'm like, no. I mean, she's so much like our mother. She gets excited over everything.
Yeah, mom's like that. She gets excited over the smallest things. And I think you and I have so much of our father in us that melancholy, just find the negative and just zero in on it and let it soak there, And if there is no negativity, we think we suspect negativity. If there's too much positivity, that means it's fake and there's something that's hiding the real truth. Let's go find it. If you're too happy of an individual, something's wrong. So I don't get along very well with super happy, positive people, because I think there's just a front. Because in my personal experiences, there's no way you can be that happy. That's not possible. Right. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm just so twisted and messed up inside. But who knows?
I completely and 100% relate, because I will look at people, friends of mine, that they do things, and I talk to them and they seem so happy, so excited, and I'm like, are they in some form of denial? I mean,
it's like a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but then I also, I don't want to come across like I'm the one that's all put together here, because I know I'm not. So what is it that I'm missing? What's wrong with me that I don't feel like I fit in sometimes?
Here's what I have done recently that has helped me quiet the existential angst. I was so consumed with what am I going to do in life? Where am I headed in life? That I've started in my kind of morning meditations replacing that very narcissistic, I'm contradicting myself from earlier, this very narcissistic tendency of everything is about me. I've started whispering, call it a prayer, call it a mantra, whatever. Okay, what's really important? And there's few things that are really important. How do I be a blessing to my wife? I say that. How can I? Because that person's very. How do I be a blessing to my sister? That person matters to me, and I'm really close to one of my wife's sisters, and I've been working with her on some stuff. And I'm like, I actually say, how can I, in all my brokenness, be a blessing to that? And so what I'm doing is I don't call it God, call it the universe. I don't demand answers,
Right.
so that I can explain. I do, in all the tongue-in-cheek and sarcasm and satire I sometimes, but I do think there's something inherent with the psalmist's prayer in 51, where he says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit." This is not someone who had all the answers.
Right.
But it was right after that. Here it is in the Old Testament, right, where you're talking about you have all the sacrifices and you have all the Levitical laws, and he says the unthinkable. He says, sacrifices and burnt offerings you don't require, but a broken and contrite heart you will not despise. So what I have done over the last several months in my quiet time is I've just been, how do I have the right attitude? And that attitude, first and foremost, I have to relinquish the right to have all the answers, because not all the answers can be given to me, because I'm not going to be able to understand it. For those who have a Christian background, Job is a perfect example of this. Job really struggled with meaning. Job lost everything he had, and Job's friends were saying, man, well, there's got to be a causality to this. You've done something wrong. He's like, no, I haven't done anything wrong. God's the one that's messed up, and I wish God would just appear before me and talk. And again, and I want to hear reasoning. Why have you taken away everything? Lost all my children. I've lost everything. And Job 40 happens, and we realize that God doesn't even answer. There is no answer to the why. There is no distinct answer for the meaning. Because whatever's going on, the implication is, Job, you don't even understand these basic stuff, so you can't answer these questions. Yeah. And here we're getting off track here, but there is some truth. It resonates. When I say truth, it resonates. You're looking for truth. I guess it resonates because maybe it's my upbringing, maybe it's my conditioning. Christ said that unless you become like little children, you can't inherit the kingdom of God. And I've always wondered what that meant. And it's only been as a music teacher working with 4- and 5-year-olds that I finally figured out what it meant. They don't ask any of these questions. They just exist. There's the 4- and 5-year-olds only have an ongoing now. They're locked into. They haven't had. They don't know to think about the abstract stuff of the future. They haven't had regrets, so they don't really think about that. They just say now. And what it is a complete trust in, I'm going to allow reality to be what it is, because I can't change reality that much. There's so much I don't have control of. Yeah. And so that yielding and that trusting, there is. It's something resonates with me when I meditate on that. It's like there's some type of truth there. And so for the last several months, I've really been diving in pursuing that. While on the surface pretending to be a very narcissistic prick, but underneath there's this real something eating at me. Okay, what is the right attitude that I gotta have about this, instead of searching after the answers? And we people that are in the faith-based environment, you can lose your way by being locked into searching for answers. I gotta have the answers, and then you miss. You miss the forest for the trees, and if to bring in a more serious example here from our religious background, if you want to talk about searching for meaning, in the Gospels, there's a very short two verses, 3 verses, that's just phenomenal. one of the thieves on the cross next to Christ.
Right.
He's been cursing and riling him. Something changes in him.
Yeah.
And he says, remember me when you come into paradise. This is a guy that didn't have any answers. And it was his attitude that changed the whole meaning. It wasn't the fact that he was rescued from that cross. He died. Yeah. It wasn't the fact that his situation got better. He found meaning in something that was just so higher than what was happening right there. And he saw it in the Christ figure. Now, people can, if they're not of that religion or that background, they can take it and apply it to however. But the point that I'm saying here is meaning for me has been coming in, doing what we're doing right now. You're pouring into the people that you love.
Yeah.
And I don't have all the answers, but there's something that resonates with me. That is something that's more, it's almost, it feels eternal to me. It feels long-lasting rather than even building a business. You're selling your widgets. So if we're caught in that busy rat race and we're not focusing on, there's a book called Total Leadership, and he talks about the 4-way winds in life. And if we're talking about back to meaning again, you have your career, you have your family, you have your community, and you have your inner peace. And these 4 blocks, this 4-way wind, if you're not adequately balancing all of those according to your values, but you're just blindly going after one and ignoring all the rest, then you have angst. Then the sense of internal meaninglessness starts to kick in because something is not when we have that throbs, this is meaningless. What we're saying to ourselves is something's not in alignment. Okay? Something's out of alignment. And it's a warning. We should listen to that. Now, I can't go and tell people how to align it in their lives, but the challenge that we would say in this little session here is, are you listening to that throb that's saying, hey, something's not right here, and it's time to listen. Do not seek the meaning of life. Simply be present for the people you love. This is a quote from Maxime. I can't pronounce that last name. That looks and so legacy or something. Maybe the search for meaning distracts us from where meaning already lives. Our relationships, the presence, and this is in your notes that you wrote. You're already quoting Eckhart Tolle, and you don't even realize it. And the attention we give to that moment. And what we're advocating here is a quieter, more grounded idea that maybe meaning is not found. Ooh, I love this that you.
Yeah.
This is not my notes, by the way. This is my sister's note. Maybe meaning is not found, but felt. Meaning can be relational, not cosmic. Oh, I love it. That's great. Wow. So let's ask this: when have you felt the most? This is good for both of us. When have you felt the most meaning in life? What made that moment meaningful?
I've had small segments throughout my life, and I've tried to figure out a way to take those and duplicate it on a more consistent basis, so it's not just so sporadic and occasional. I want to be able to have it more constant in my life. That's where I've been struggling, because I think you were talking about family and community, and I do find a lot of meaning when I can help others. But whether it's my obligations at home or my health, it has been limiting on how I can be of help to others.
You can do good things with the wrong attitude.
Sure.
You can help other people and have the wrong attitude about it. But I think you can also do some mundane things with the right attitude and it still be meaningful in the long run. And the person, I can't quite get away from I try to be as objective as possible, neutral, but it's hard for me to, because these questions, I always go back to this faith-based environment, that the faith-based person says, even Christ said that a cup of water given in my name will not lose its reward. And the Hebrew writer says, be careful when you're entertaining strangers because many have entertained angels unawares. You do not see the big picture. So the person of faith walks in faith and says that I'm going to be faithful in what I'm doing, even with these small things, even when it's the mundane things. I mean, I'm just going to dive head on into this because I can't get out of this faith-based mentality because it's how I was raised. So think about just the operation of the Old Testament temple. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people were assigned these duties, and they would shift throughout the year. They would have their allotted times they come and serve. So you don't have everyone being the high priest. That looks meaningful, right? You get to wear the ephod, you get to wear the big old hat, and you get to go and. But there's hundreds of people that are washing away all the blood of the sacrifices. They're doing the smelly jobs. They're sitting there opening the doors and closing the doors. And so, do they have any meaning as much as the high priest? Here's the thing, and Christ, oh man, he addressed this when the poor woman, the widow came in the temple and gave the little offering.
Yes.
And everyone else was having all their show. Look at how much money they're depositing into the treasury. And this person came, what's it called? I think the King James Version called it the mite, gave it just all she had left. Right. And he's like, that right there's more meaningful. They're right there. That's what we're talking about. And so what we think is significant, what we think is meaningful, we have to pause and really look at that script. Where do we get that from? We got it from our environment. Why are we chasing those things that we think are important? And are they really important? And what I'm amazed at is most people don't stop to have that that dialogue with themselves. They're just driven headlong by these internal scripts. And they have no idea where it's coming from. And then they're wondering why they're having existential angst. And so if you're not pausing to say what's important to me and why, then you're just a victim to your own internal motions.
Right.
So that's a wake-up call. So I think for me, the most meaningful moments in my life, I've had an array of them. It's not every day. Mm-hmm. I've been fortunate to be a music teacher to there's hundreds of people. And what's one I could... That has provided a lot of moments. I want to fixate on this one. So I got a letter in the mail one day. It was from Doc Thomas. Doc Thomas was a retired physician, and he was already suffering with dementia and other issues. Mm. And he wrote me and said, I never could make it past that level on piano, but this is years after he had to quit. And he said, I still play. And just a few months ago, I ran into Doc Thomas and his wife, Minnie, and they were sitting in a restaurant. And I could tell that look on his face that dementia had taken its toll. Mm. And I walked over there and I said, Doc Thomas, he didn't even recognize me. But his wife knew who I was. And he only lit up when she said, honey, it's the piano guy. He goes, oh. And he still had the glossy look over his face. He was just being polite. His wife said, his mind's not there, but he still plays the songs that you taught him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're talking about meaning. And so, I had a student that came in. Well, I got a phone call, and my secretary said, the mother says that her student has some physical problems and nobody would take him. Would you take a look? And I said, I'll be glad to. And so I met with them. They came in, and I watched them walk across the lobby. He was limping. I saw his left arm was withered and like this, and he sat down. This is a 12-year-old boy. He had slurred speech. I could tell there was learning disabilities as well. He was scarred on this side, down. It was pretty, something horrific had happened. And she said, I want him to play the piano. I want to do something music. Well, this left hand was completely dysfunctional. Like, he can move, but there was a very little motor capacity there. So that meant that I'm going to have to adapt everything in the pedagogical approach for a right-handed one arm person, basically, that's right-handed. And on top of that, there's a speech impediment. And on top of that, there's a learning disability. And by learning disability, I should say learning challenge. In other words, the way that person's going to process the data is going to be really, really slow, really tremendously challenging. at this point, we could ask, well, what's the meaning of this? What's the purpose of this? This person's not going to succeed. It's not going to be in competitions. No, the meaning is giving value to that person in that moment. And I remember in the lesson time, I finally built up enough nerve to ask the mother. I built a lot of rapport with him. He was laughing. And I looked at the mother and I said, how long, what's his diagnosis? I think I asked the question. She said, oh, he wasn't born this way. And I said, huh? She said, oh, when he was 6 months old, his father was in a drunken rage, beat him to death, and poured acid all over him. And I looked up at this boy. He's just grinning. And you know what he said to me? He goes, oh, it's okay. And this is slurred speech. He said, oh, it's okay. I have my mom.
Oh, wow.
And so in that moment, I realized he's never going to play a Chopin Nocturne. He's never going to play anything that's past the beginning stage. But when I helped him play a couple of notes on the piano, he just got so excited. He's doing this number. Oh, look, Mom, I did it. There was more meaning there than the students that performed big pieces because the reaction from this kid was visceral. And he was so happy despite the fact that he had been the victim of horrible, horrible abuse. And I remember just trying to gain my composure in that lesson time because here was a student that was teaching me, and I didn't know what I could teach this student. I really and truly, because this student was just so joyous that he played a few notes on a pentatonic scale with one finger while I accompanied him, and he was able to get some rhythms, and he matched some notes with some of the programs. It was like, yes, I don't know how to quantify that and say, here's meaning. Here's how you find that. I don't know.
Yeah.
How do you be the person that was victimized so and say, oh, it's okay, I got my mother. I get a paper cut and I'm going to take a week off work. I'm sorry, it's done. I mean, I've reached my stress limit for the day. I don't know how to relate to that. But there's an existential, I can't quantify what was happening there. There was something so powerful in that moment. Yeah. So when I think about meaning for me, I look at those few rare moments where something has awakened and it's way more than the temporal. It's way more. So take it for what it's worth there. Let's move on here. Purpose doesn't have to be cosmic. Sometimes it's just showing up well. And here's the right now in the present. Yeah. Let's reject the pressure to have some grand legacy-worthy mission. Here's the deal. You may not know what you're supposed to do with your life. When I was a boy, I was 10. I was obsessed with this when I was a boy because I wanted to get it right. Because if I get it right, then I'm safe. If I'm safe, I'm wanted, and so it's very predictable. Right. I remember 10 years old. I'm asking a college president about life. And I remember his look, he came with his face. How old are you, kid? And I was said, how do you know what you're supposed to do with your life? How do you know the calling? And here's this, he was an evangelist. And if I mention his name, any of our listeners from my background would know who this person is. So I'm not going to call that person out.
Sure.
But this is a gracious man. He goes, son, I never had a calling on anything. But what I did is I walked through whatever doors were open in front of me, and I did it to the best of my ability.
Wow.
And that's how he found meaning.
Yeah.
Rather than demanding the Creator say, tell me what I'm supposed to do. For a lot of us, the test is, I want you to use your creativity. I want you to look at what you can do, and you see it right there in Ecclesiastes, and do what you can to the best of your ability. Pursue it wholeheartedly. And that has stuck with me all these years, that college president / evangelist didn't have a calling. He said, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this, but it's the door open, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I'm just going to trust that what I'm doing is okay. And maybe that's so what most of us. That's most of us. That's the journey from and I think we get jealous about the stories in the Bible with Samuel. Hey Samuel, go do this. I'd love to have that. I'd love to say, here's what, and maybe I say that, and if I were to know what it was, I wouldn't want to do it because I'm not ready to receive that truth.
Well, you have to look at the stories if you want to go with the biblical approach. The people that were specifically called by name by God, look at how their lives played out.
Oh, you beat me to the punch. I was just about to talk about this. No, this is great. Go on. Hit it. We need an amen corner over here because it's about to get lit. Look, I just had this conversation with Najia the other day.
Oh, really?
It's the same. I know where you're headed with this.
Well, you go ahead. You tell it much better, I'm sure.
No. I'm tired of yakking. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Well, I'm sure your version would be a lot more eloquent than mine, but I do remember used to be envious of the stories of David, Moses, the different ones, even Samuel, Paul, different ones that God specifically called out to them with a very, very specific mission. And I am sitting around waiting, praying, okay, God, show me my mission. But then I start to read the rest of their life story and see how tragically a lot of them ended. And then it does make you want to pause a little bit and say, okay, is that where my life is headed?
Look, it's so funny how you and I are in sync. Because here's the conversation that I had just the other week with Najia. She gets these TED Talks. She's my involuntary attendant to my TED Talks. I was like, these people that, you know what, I want to have some divine experience from God. Mm-hmm. I don't. Y'all crazy. Y'all crazy for thinking, Moses, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you you're going to go down there and you're going to not accomplish anything because I ain't going to listen to you. And finally, when they do let you go, I'm not going to take you away the King's Highway and get you there in 2 months. I'm going to take you around in circles in the desert for 40 years, and then I'm not going to allow you to go into the promised land. Hey, Isaiah, I'm going to call you out, but no one's going to listen to you. No one's going to turn at all, but you're going to be my spokesperson, and they're going to laugh at you. They're going to persecute. Jeremiah's like, Jeremiah gets imprisoned. Jeremiah gets kidnapped down to Egypt. Ezekiel's like, he says, the spirit was strong against me. I don't want this. Are you kidding me? I got to go back there and tell them that we are in the wrong and not the Babylonians. Oh, no. Every one of the apostles except John. Oh, John was tortured. He was boiled alive. They're horrible lives. Paul, horrible lives. He lists all the things: a shipwrecked, been stoned to death, been starved. I mean, Lord have mercy. Every encounter with the divine ended up just being horrifically horrible. And so there's a part of me that says, I'm perfectly okay being a nobody. You ain't got to, no, I'm perfectly okay because I understand the cost. Maybe that's maybe that's the wrong attitude to have. But there's a part of me that's like, I'm really skittish about this whole, hey, if there's, whatever God's there, I want it to show me his divine will. No. Y'all be careful what y'all asking for, because in this plain as day, people that are very faith-based, that are, Christ says, if any man's going to be a follower of me, he must lose his life for my sake.
Yeah.
And now we're getting into a whole different attitude about meaning, and that is that the faith-based environment, and the Christian environment that we were familiar with, Christ is, a lot of people, it's a means to an end. It's like a little talisman. Hey, Jesus worked for me. It's not. If you're going to take the text at face value, it's a paradigm shift where your search for meaning is that you give up the right to have any rights whatsoever.
Right.
Now, this is where that conflicts greatly with New Age mentality. You have to establish your own meaning. You got to search within, because the Christian faith would say that the human heart is wicked. Who can know it? There is no good there. And so the meaning comes from pursuit. And so the true Christian faith, essence, is saying that meaning is found from complete self-abandonment and self-entitlement, and regardless if you have any answers, you are designed for one thing. Your whole meaning is to search after the divine, even if that divine does not answer in the way that you want to. And that is a stumbling block for a lot of Christians, because the nominal Christian approach is, hey, God's my talisman. God's going to work things out for good for me. They never look at Romans 8:29. They're always on 8:28. It's going to work out for the good. What good? What do you mean? No, the good. In 29, it says conformity to the image of his son. You know what that looks like? A complete abandonment to self. All your ambitions, all your dreams, all your hopes, all your wants, no more claims to any of that. And so I have a problem with nominal Christians that just kind of, I go to church and I feel good. Because you haven't read your text. If you really believe that stuff, if you really believe that, then you're not living that out. And so I don't really come out and talk about where I fall out on this issue of faith and religion and God. I that's my business and not anybody else's. But I think the pursuit of meaning, the general truth is the ability to take oneself and give it in a way to other people without expecting a lot in return. There's some type of deep spiritual truth there that I think is missing in our day-to-day hustle and bustle.
Sure.
There's virtue. Here's a quote here from Alan Cohen. There's virtue in work and there's virtue in rest. We got to use both and overlook neither. So let's talk about you for a second. And what's your idea of purpose and the big meaningful output of life?
Well, I used to, well, and still do actually, think of purpose having to look like something big with a meaningful output. And it's like if I wasn't working towards something measurable or impressive, then I was just wasting my time. But lately, I think I'm wondering more if maybe purpose isn't always about building something, but maybe it's more about noticing and being more present. I think a lot of times I'm more in my head, and I've told my friend yesterday. I met with her. I was like, I'm my own worst enemy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I still wrestle with whether things in my life are enough. But I am starting to believe that the small, honest moments might be the more real kind of purpose. And
I think beyond the survival mode. I don't want to spend my life in survival mode either. Physically, financially, spiritually, emotionally. And finding something. I know where I'm at right now in my life. There's kind of a mantra or prayer. I want something that gets me excited about waking up every day. That I just zeroed in on that, because I don't want to be so scattered that I never accomplish anything. And I'm at the age where I really want to know that I'm doing something that has some long-term longevity to it, worthwhile. I don't want to be stuck in survival mode. And I think
that's hard to get. It's hard to get out of.
Yes, it is.
Because I think you and I both were there for so long.
Yep.
And it's very ingrained into the way, at least for me, the way I function and process. I am trying to be more intentional, more aware, and to help break that cycle for myself.
Well, we can talk about happiness versus contentment here. We have this thought, but the pursuit of happiness might be a trap. The pursuit of contentment might be wiser. What if happiness is a fleeting chemical high and contentment is the real good? And here we go. Yeah. Back to the Apostle Paul. He says, I've learned in whatever state I am, therewith to be content. So there might be a close tie there between gratitude altruism. Oh, we create a pyramid. Well, what do we have this triad here? We have altruism. We have gratitude. Oh man, and we have contentment. I'm writing this down as I'm creating this triangle. We gotta have we call it the pyramid of fulfillment. I just had an aha moment. All right, we're gonna call this the pyramid. Pyramid. How do you spell that?
P-Y.
Yeah, P-Y. Pyramid of fulfillment. Gratitude, altruism, and contentment. That is the opposite of everything. That's the opposite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, altruism is the antithesis of, what about me?
Yeah.
Contentment is the antithesis of, I gotta have more. Gratitude is the antithesis of always finding the negative. I'm gonna be really. That's the hardest thing for me, is the gratitude part. I just, and it's hard. Ooh, you know what I found? Gratitude and anger can't. They can't. It's like oil and water. They can't. And what I've discovered in my life is how much anger has been under the surface. And so you can't have gratefulness and thankfulness if you're angry all the time.
Yep.
I just gave myself a TED Talk. That's fantastic. Oh wow! I'm gonna have to go chew the cud on that one for a while, because that one's.
But I think that you were talking about the negativity. That for me would be my big struggle, because I walk into any situation, I immediately see the negative. I actually struggle to find the positives in a lot of situations, and it's something I have to be more intentional. Chloe, she has a friend that I had actually met with, and the friend's mom, and actually it was a group of friends and their mothers, and I went out to eat with them last year, and I just found out this week that one of the friend's moms told the daughter that she said, Chloe's mom, she's hiding something. She's really shady. And I was like, really? And I had to reflect back on that moment that I spent with them. And the friend told Chloe, she's like, yeah, your mom, she doesn't talk. She just sits there real quiet. And I told Chloe, I said, I was in a place I hated with people I didn't know, surrounded by a massive amount of chaos. And to me, I'm seeing my body's just intaking all of these negative things that I interpret as negative for me.
Yep.
I had no idea that I was coming across that way. I mean, here I am trying to put on this good front. I was doing this for Chloe, and like, oh my goodness, I did not realize how that was coming across. But yeah, me trying to overcome that negative that you were talking about, that is something that is really difficult for me.
I have added a fourth point. This is no longer a pyramid.
So we're in a square?
We're in a square. The square of fulfillment. We ain't quite as much as pyramid. But the fourth point, creativity.
Okay.
So if I have altruism.
Walk me through those four things again.
Yeah, so altruism versus self-absorption. Gratitude versus the negativity. Contentment versus constant self-gratification. Always got to have more. And then those become the bedrock these become the bedrock for unlocking creativity, which is selfless oh my goodness. Selfless self-expression. I don't know how to graph that, but those three things, altruism, gratitude, and contentment, all working together. And the more I have that, the more open I am. Let's talk about that tarmac, getting rid of all the crap on the tarmac. The more I'm open for that inspiration, that creativity to flow through. We got to come up with chart. We got to graph this. We can't call it the square of fulfillment because that's stupid. I'm such a square.
I was to say, the name in of itself implies quite boredom.
Yeah, it does. We'll come up with something. The paradigm. I don't know. I don't like that. But we gotta have a graph that shows it, because I love this. Because what's missing is if you have that sense of other centric, coming from a source of a set of poverty or lacking, you have a sense of richness inside you, and there's contentment, then you have the strength to be creative and original. Otherwise, you're going to try to be copycatting everything around you instead of being, this is so, man, I'm having an aha moment right here. I love it. We have been yakking for 18 pages, front and back.
I know. I was thinking, I was like, we probably lost all of our listeners about an hour ago.
Yeah.
And they're missing out on
the good stuff. Yeah, we just got to put in there, hey, y'all need to listen to bear with us to the hour and a half mark. Oh, let's wrap this up. Lord have mercy. I just saw the time.
Yeah.
God, anybody that watches it, man, these people haven't got a life. They can sit there in the middle of a Thursday and have an hour and a half session about the meaning of life.
Well, just be thankful, listeners, that we spared you from the pre-hour rehearsal.
Oh, yes. Every episode has a pre-episode that's not recorded. It's an hour of rambling, and we're like, we gotta record this stuff. So here we go.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap this up here. Meaning is not something you stumble across. Maybe it's something that you build. There it is. There's the creativity.
Yeah.
But you can't build that if you're just so self-absorbed. And all the negativity is there, and you're constantly looking for more because you don't think you have enough. All right, now we're hitting on some things that are worthy to think about. This isn't about faking it; it's about participating in it. And what do you want to build? Oh, I love this. See, what do you want to build with your time here? I have two parts of me. There's the part of me that wants to do absolutely nothing. I just get frustrated, but then there's part of me that's reminded of that session with that boy where value, it wasn't anything I did. It was just being able in the moment and watching that boy, that handicapped boy light up because of the joy of music. So that I'm torn between those two things, and I don't know how to bring.
I do think, though, it's important to also allow yourself to take those times to do nothing, because we did mention earlier about having those silent moments. So you have to be able to have that rest without feeling guilty, because I don't think every minute of every day has to be some grand purpose, some that's filled with productivity. I think sometimes it's beneficial for me. I know for sure, and I've even seen it with Jeremy. He's like, okay, I need a day or two of doing nothing, because it's not sustainable if you are just constantly go.
Yeah, that's really hard for me to grasp. Najia's like that. She's like, I gotta have this weekend. I'm just gonna lay in bed, and then to this day, my first reaction is, well, you lazy bum. You gotta be doing something.
Well, I think it goes back to our childhood. I don't remember ever there being a weekend where we laid around doing nothing. It was always something, and we were gone. I think a lot of times, especially when Dad was doing like mission work, we were gone almost every weekend. So oh
boy,
I think we have to basically retrain our way of thinking, and I know we've mentioned this in the past. I don't remember what episode it was. And maybe I'm getting it mixed up with something else, but our mother, she could not sit still. She did not know how to relax.
No, I remember that time y'all took her to her spa, and y'all sitting out there in that quiet room. She goes, what do y'all do? This is boring.
Yes. She doesn't know how to sit still. She comes to my home, and we like to just take it easy. She's like, I've got to be busy doing something. And she wants to go clean. I'm like, Mom, there's nothing to clean. But she wants to be busy some. But now, I mean, she's remarried. She is actually, I think, learning how to adjust to that. She called me up the other day, and she's like, you know what? I'm still in my pajamas. I didn't even get ready today. I'm just taking it easy. I just been sitting here enjoying.
Really?
Yeah. So she's in her 60s now, and she's just now learning how to relax, how to rest. So I think there's something to be said definitely about taking advantage of those moments, because that is something she was never able to do, I think. Throughout our growing up, I never saw her just take it easy.
Well, you need those quiet moments to check your barometer, so to say, emotionally, spiritually, because you can be dead inside, and it'll catch up with you if you're not careful, and you get that burnout. All right, we're going to close here.
All right.
So maybe there isn't a cosmic purpose stamped on our life. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe you knew. I'm not going to impose my beliefs on other people, but maybe meaning isn't found on its own. It's something you create, maybe in the way we show up, the things we build, the things that we love.
And maybe we shouldn't ask, what's the meaning of life? Instead, we should be asking, what kind of life feels meaningful to me?
That's a good question. Yeah.
But even when we do start to create it, there's the part of us that just won't loosen its grip, if you're like me.
Yeah, we've hinted at this topic already several times.
Yes.
So next time we're looking at what we hold on to life when it feels out of control. We don't want to let go of it. We must control things.
And how trying to manage everything might be the thing that's actually managing us.
Yeah, right now the working title for the episode is called Craving Control, the illusion that keeps us safe.
And for anyone who's always planning, fixing, or micromanaging like myself, maybe it's not about control at all. Maybe it's about fear.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens when we finally let go? Thank you all for joining us today in the longest episode of history, the longest episode ever that we've done thus far, but it's been great. This is life. What is it good for?